Imagine a land where every boulder, every tree, every hill, and even the whisper of the wind is imbued with the unseen presence of spirits. Japan, the land of the rising sun, where nature has long been more than just a backdrop for human life, but an animate and sacred participant in their destiny. In this narrative, we will journey into the depths of Japanese religiosity and mythology, a complex and multifaceted system of beliefs that unites ancient ideas about spirits inhabiting nature, known as Shinto. These ideas are intertwined with the profound philosophical teachings of Buddhism and a rich folklore, full of vivid tales of kami, yokai, and heroes. So what makes the religion and mythology of Japan so unique? First and foremost, their amazing ability to coexist harmoniously without engaging in irreconcilable contradictions. In Japanese history, there have been virtually no bloody clashes between traditional beliefs and new religious movements. Shinto, with its deep reverence for nature and numerous rituals, has smoothly woven itself into the fabric of Japanese culture, and Buddhism, which came from abroad, has enriched this picture, offering answers to eternal questions about the meaning of human existence, the nature of death, and the possibility of rebirth. It is important to note that Japanese mythology is not just a collection of fairy tales about gods and heroes. It is, in a way, a mirror reflecting the Japanese mentality, a deep respect for nature, a relentless pursuit of harmony, and a reverence for the past and the memory of ancestors. Every legend, every story helps us understand why Japanese culture is so reverent of its traditions, passing them down from generation to generation. Turning to the image of ancient Japan, we see a world where nature occupied a central place in the life of every person, determining their way of life and worldview. Unlike Western notions of nature, where it is often seen as an object to be conquered or a source of resources to be exploited, the Japanese have always seen it as a living entity, filled with spiritual energy. This concept, which underlies the religious worldview of Japan, has firmly entered their daily life, culture, and mythology. The ancient inhabitants of the Japanese islands sincerely believed that the world was inhabited by invisible spirits, who dwell in every corner of nature, from mountain peaks to the depths of the sea. These spirits, called kami, could be associated with majestic trees, swift rivers, picturesque mountains, refreshing winds, or even ordinary stones. For the ancient Japanese, nature was not just the background of their lives, it was its very heart, its life force. Every day and every action were inextricably linked to its cycles and rhythms. For example, spring, with its unique cherry blossom, symbolized renewal and served as a reminder of the transience of life. In the autumn, it was time to thank the kami for the generous harvest gathered from the fields. Each change of season was accompanied by special rituals that were performed to pay homage to the spirits of nature and enlist their favor. If it happened that the rain was delayed, people made offerings to the spirits of the rivers to appease them and ask for moisture to be sent down. And if a drought threatened to destroy the crop, special prayers were offered to the spirits of the earth. Thus, Shinto, which is now known as the Way of the Gods, gradually came into being. However, in those distant times, it was not a strictly defined religion with clear dogmas or rigid rules. Rather, it was a special way of life, based on respect for nature, striving for harmony, and an awareness that humans cannot exist in isolation from the world around them. People sincerely believed that if this fragile balance was not maintained, the kami could become angry, and then disasters such as droughts, devastating storms, or epidemics of diseases would begin. Special attention was paid to places that were considered to be the abode of the kami. Imagine an ancient, mighty oak tree, its branches spreading in all directions so wide that even bright sunlight barely penetrates through the dense foliage. For the ancient Japanese, such a tree was not just part of the landscape, but a home for a spirit, a place where one could feel a connection with nature and the divine. Such a tree was usually decorated with a sacred straw rope called shimenawa, which served as a sign of its special status and inviolability. And what can be said about Mount Fuji? To this day, it remains not only a magnificent example of natural beauty, but also a sacred place, the abode of a powerful kami, who has been worshipped by many generations of Japanese. However, nature in the Japanese worldview was not exclusively benevolent and generous. Devastating storms, sudden earthquakes, and other natural disasters were also associated with spirits, with kami, of storms and chaos, who could unleash their wrath on humanity. These ideas about nature are vividly reflected in ancient Japanese myths and legends. Take, for example, the story of how the divine couple Izanagi and Izanami created the Japanese islands. According to the myth, they lowered a sacred spear into the primordial ocean from which the world arose. The drops of water flowing from its tip magically turned into land, forming the islands of the Japanese archipelago. Isn't this a truly poetic and inspiring idea, imbued with deep symbolism? The islands appear as a priceless gift from the gods, and the surrounding nature as their visible embodiment on Earth. Over time, even after the penetration of Buddhism into Japan, the deep respect for nature not only did not disappear, but also received further development. It organically absorbed the philosophical teachings of this new religion, enriching it and making it even closer and more understandable to the Japanese perception of the world. Thus, a unique culture was gradually born, in which harmony with nature became not just a desirable ideal, but the main principle of life, determining all aspects of human existence. Ancient Japan taught its inhabitants, nature is something much more than just the totality of material objects that we see around us. It is alive, it breathes, it has its own soul, and we, humans, are only a small but integral part of it. It is this deep understanding of nature that has become the cornerstone of all Japanese religion and mythology, defining its unique character and identity. So, we have already seen how deep and inseparable the connection of the ancient Japanese with the nature around them was. But how did these ideas take shape into what we today call Shinto? Shinto is a unique religion that is quite difficult to reduce to strict dogmas or clear rules. Its roots go deep into nature itself, and its essence lies in the pursuit of harmony and maintaining balance in everything. The word Shinto itself translates as the way of the gods or the way of the spirits, which in itself hints at its main feature, a deep respect for the spirits of nature, which are called kami. But who are the kami? And why do they occupy such an important place in the Japanese worldview? Kami are spirits or entities that permeate everything around us. They are present in everything that surrounds us. They cannot be limited to strict frameworks or called simply gods in the usual sense of the word. They are at once simple and mysterious, understandable and incomprehensible. Kami can live in majestic mountains, in murmuring streams and rivers, in mighty trees, and can manifest themselves through people, through various phenomena, and even through ordinary objects. For example, an old sword that belonged to a great warrior and with which he won many victories may be so revered that over time it becomes the embodiment of the kami, symbolizing his strength and valor. It is this deeply respectful attitude towards the whole world, towards everything that surrounds us, that makes Shinto such a unique religion. But kami not only live in nature, they are also closely connected with the lives of people, having a direct impact on it. These can be the spirits of ancestors who continue to protect their family and help their descendants, or the spirits of villages who protect residents from various disasters and misfortunes. Kami can be benevolent, helping those who respect them and honor their memory, but they can also become angry if they are treated with neglect or disrespect. Therefore, interaction with the kami is always accompanied by special rituals, prayers, and offerings, which are designed to appease the spirits and enlist their support. One of the famous stories about interaction with the kami is the ancient legend of a peasant who met the kami of a waterfall. It was said that once upon a time there lived a poor peasant who tried his best to feed his large family. One day, going to the river to collect water, he saw an old spirit peacefully sitting at the foot of a picturesque waterfall. This kami looked rather gloomy. His hair was tangled and resembled silty algae, and his clothes were quite tattered. The peasant, feeling not the slightest fear, showed compassion and offered his help to put the kami in order. He carefully trimmed his hair, carefully cleaned his clothes, and brought clean water from the river so that he could wash himself. As a sign of his deep gratitude, the kami of the waterfall generously filled the peasant's jug with sparkling gold coins. But at the same time, he strictly warned him, "Never come back here with selfish thoughts and do not strive for profit." The peasant gratefully accepted this generous gift and went home, and his family lived happily and prosperously. However, about a year later, rumors of magical gold coins reached the ears of his envious and greedy neighbor. He, driven by greed, immediately went to the waterfall, pretending to be respectful and pious, but instead of sincerely helping the kami, he brazenly demanded wealth and gold. This time, the kami showed his strict and fair side. The neighbor, returning home with nothing, found that his house had turned into a pile of ruins, and all his wealth had disappeared without a trace. This instructive story clearly emphasizes the main idea. Kami highly value and respect those who are sincere in their intentions and show kindness and compassion, but can severely punish arrogance, greed, and disrespect for them. Thus, kami are not just spirits of nature or souls of ancestors living in the invisible world. They embody the very essence of the Japanese perception of harmony, balance, and respect for all living things that surround us. It is through the kami that the Japanese see a profound connection between themselves, the nature around them, and those powerful forces that make this world so wondrous, unfathomable, and unpredictable. When we speak of Shinto, it is impossible to ignore its outward manifestations, those elements that make this religion visible, tangible, and comprehensible to all. Unlike complex rituals or convoluted philosophical constructs that can sometimes be difficult to grasp, Shinto attracts with its simplicity, clarity, and closeness to nature. Every temple, every detail, every symbol is a part of a spiritual journey where one feels closer to nature and to the kami, sensing their invisible presence. Let's delve into the key elements of Shinto that vividly embody this religion and make it so recognizable. As you approach a Shinto shrine, the first thing that immediately catches your eye is the torii, the famous gate that seems to say to you, "Pause for a moment, traveler." You are entering a special place where silence and tranquility reign. Passing through them, you are not simply taking a step forward. You are leaving behind the world of the mundane and everyday and entering a space where the kami reside and where everything is imbued with spirituality. These gates symbolize the boundary between two worlds, our human world and the world of spirits, the divine realm. Torii come in many forms: bright red, wooden, stone, tall and monumental, or small and modest. Their forms appear simple, yet they contain amazing significance, profound symbolism, and centuries of wisdom. The color red, for example, symbolizes purification and protection from evil, as if only those who are ready to treat the sacred place they are heading to with reverence and respect can pass through these gates. One of the most impressive examples is the torii at Fushimi Inari Shrine, located in the picturesque city of Kyoto. There, thousands of gates are arranged in long corridors that wind along the slopes of the hills. Walking through these corridors, you feel as if you are passing through a magical portal that leads deeper and deeper into the world of the Kami, immersing you in an atmosphere of mystery and spirituality. This path is not just a regular walk, but a true spiritual journey where each step brings you closer to something greater, to an understanding of yourself and the world. Passing through the Torii, you find yourself in the Jinja, a Shinto shrine where the Kami are believed to reside. But it is not just a building or structure. Each shrine is a living organism, harmoniously integrated into the surrounding nature, becoming an integral part of it. You will almost always find them in places that already seem special and endowed with special energy, in dense forests, on the summits of mountains steeped in legends, or by quiet rivers where peace and tranquility reign. Temples do not strive to stand out and attract attention. On the contrary, they blend harmoniously with the surrounding landscape as if dissolving into it. The main idea is to make the Kami feel at home here in their natural habitat. After all, the Kami are primarily spirits of nature, and they prefer to remain in their familiar places, be it a sprawling tree, an ancient stone covered with moss, or a majestic mountain reaching for the sky. Inside the shrine, two main areas are usually distinguished. The Hondan is the very heart of the temple, its sacred center, where the symbol of the Kami, to whom the shrine is dedicated, is located. Usually, this symbol is hidden from the eyes of visitors and is not accessible for viewing. It may be a mirror polished to a shine, a stone possessing special energy, or a sword symbolizing strength and justice. It is securely hidden behind closed doors, which are believed to contain the powerful force of the Kami. The Haiden is the place where people offer prayers, make offerings to the Kami, and communicate with them, asking for help and protection. Everything is arranged very simply here: a small altar on which you can place a coin as an offering, bow as a sign of respect, and clap your hands twice to attract the attention of the Kami. Each shrine has its own unique features that make it distinctive and different from others. For example, the Ise Grand Shrine, dedicated to the sun goddess Amaterasu, is completely rebuilt every 20 years, reconstructing it from the same materials and in the same style. Why is this done? To symbolize the constant renewal and eternity of life. This amazing tradition has existed for over 1,000 years, being an integral part of Japanese culture. A temple is not only a home for the Kami, but also a place where various rituals and ceremonies are held, which are of great importance for people's lives. Festivals, purification ceremonies, wedding ceremonies, and other significant events take place here. People come to the Jinja to ask the Kami for protection from troubles and misfortunes, for healing from illnesses, for good luck in business, and for well-being for themselves and their loved ones. But simply entering the temple is not enough. Before approaching the Kami, you need to show that you respect them and honor their memory. For this purpose, there is a special purification ritual that helps prepare for the meeting with the sacred. Each temple has a special place called a temizuya. It is a stone or wooden basin filled with clean water and neatly arranged wooden ladles nearby. And here, something amazing and fascinating begins. This ritual is so simple and simultaneously symbolic that you immediately feel how your body and mind are gradually preparing for an encounter with something sacred and unfathomable. Here's how it happens. Take a wooden ladle in your hands and pour some clean water onto one hand. Feel how the cool water washes over your skin, cleansing it. This symbolizes the purification of your actions and deeds. Repeat the same with the other hand, remembering that everything you do in this sacred place must be pure, sincere, and respectful. Scoop some water into your palm and gently rinse your mouth without swallowing the water. This is not just a hygienic procedure, it is a purification of your words, everything you say. You are going to address a prayer to the Kami, which means your words must be truthful, sincere, and coming from the heart. Thoroughly rinse the ladle with water and carefully put it back in its place so that it is ready for the next person. Even this seemingly insignificant step is of great importance. It shows that you care about those who will come to this sacred place after you, showing respect for other people. After performing this ritual, you feel that you are fully prepared to meet the kami. Your hands, your mouth, and most importantly your mind are cleansed of all that is vile and impure. You are ready to enter the world of the kami with a pure heart and an open soul. The torii, the jinja, and the purification ritual are not just ceremonies to be performed mechanically. They are an expression of deep respect, simplicity, and harmony, which lie at the heart of Shinto and define its essence. Everything in these elements tells you, pause for a moment, feel the moment, be here and now, don't be distracted by extraneous thoughts. When you pass through the torii, you leave all your worries, anxieties, and problems behind, crossing the threshold into the world of spirituality. When you cleanse your hands and mouth, you open yourself to something greater, to new knowledge and revelations. When you enter the jinja, you become part of a centuries-old tradition that carefully connects humans with nature and the spirit world, reminding us of the unity of all things. Shinto teaches not with complex words or incomprehensible dogmas, but through actions that are filled with deep meaning and symbolism. It insistently says, you are an integral part of this world. You are closely connected with everything that surrounds you. Respect it, communicate with it, care for it, and live in harmony with all its manifestations, whether living beings or inanimate objects. So, we have thoroughly examined the key elements of this unique worldview, understanding its basic principles and values. But Shinto is not only temples, shrines, and carefully crafted rites. It is also living traditions that are carefully preserved and passed down from generation to generation without losing their relevance and significance. The entire depth of this religion is revealed in its numerous festivals and rituals, where the veneration of the kami is closely intertwined with the cycles of nature, family values, and the daily lives of people, creating a unique atmosphere of spirituality and unity. Let's take a closer look at these amazing traditions to better understand their meaning and significance. Matsuri is a vibrant and colorful celebration of life, an expression of gratitude to the kami for their constant protection, help, and support in all endeavors. Each Matsuri is closely linked to the natural cycles and seasons, planting rice in the spring, harvesting a bountiful crop in the fall, or asking for protection from summer disasters, such as devastating typhoons and floods. This is a time when the entire city or a small village comes alive, as if waking from a long sleep, and it seems that the world around is filled with special energy, joy, and merriment. Imagine narrow streets decorated with bright paper lanterns, emitting a soft light, the mesmerizing sound of drums that echoes throughout the area, and the melodious sounds of flutes, creating a unique atmosphere. Crowds of people, dressed in bright traditional kimonos or light summer yukata, gather together to participate in the festival, enjoying the atmosphere of universal jubilation. At the center of this exciting action are usually mikoshi, elaborately decorated portable shrines, which are believed to temporarily house the kami to whom the festival is dedicated. The mikoshi are carried on the shoulders of strong men and women, rhythmically chanting words that praise the kami and invoke his blessing on the city or village. This is not just a symbolic procession, but an important ritual during which the kami is believed to visit his lands, circumambulate the city or village, inspect his domain, and bless the people, granting them health, luck, and prosperity. One of the most vibrant and well-known examples of a Matsuri is the Gion Matsuri, held annually in the ancient city of Kyoto. This colorful festival takes place during the summer months to protect the city and its inhabitants from various diseases and epidemics. Enormous, elaborately decorated floats, called yamaboko, slowly roll through the narrow city streets, while residents and visitors of Kyoto alike enjoy performances, traditional music, dancing, and delicious street food. Matsuri are not only a celebration for people, but also an important time to connect with nature, express gratitude, and ask for help in the future. In the spring, during these festivals, people ask the kami to send enough rain to ensure a good rice harvest. In the autumn, they thank the kami for the bountiful harvest gathered from the fields, holding lavish celebrations. Each dance, each melody, each gesture performed during a Matsuri is a message to the kami, an expression of deep respect, sincere gratitude, and hope for continued protection. While Matsuri are primarily focused on nature and the veneration of the kami, Obon is dedicated to honoring ancestors and remembering the departed. It is one of the most touching and heartfelt holidays in Japan, during which the Japanese believe that the souls of their ancestors return to the world of the living to visit their relatives and loved ones and spend some time with family. Everything begins with careful preparation. Families clean and tidy the graves of their ancestors, decorating them with fresh flowers, placing incense, and lighting candles. Small altars are set up in homes, where offerings are placed for the ancestors: fresh rice, juicy fruit, fragrant tea, and sometimes even the deceased's favorite dishes, which they particularly enjoyed during their lifetime. All of this is done to show ancestors that they are remembered, loved, respected, and that their return to the world of the living is eagerly awaited. The first day of Obon begins with the lighting of lanterns, which help the souls of the ancestors find their way home and not get lost in the darkness. Candles are lit in homes, and processions of lit lanterns can be seen on the streets, slowly moving towards cemeteries. This creates an amazing atmosphere of light and warmth, as if every corner is illuminated by care, love, and remembrance of the departed. One of the central elements of the holiday is the Bon Odori dance, which is performed in memory of ancestors. It is a simple but profoundly meaningful dance that is usually performed in squares, temples, or parks. People move in a circle, repeating simple movements, following the rhythm of the taiko drum, and the movements of their hands and feet symbolize the joy of meeting ancestors and gratitude for their care. Even those who have never danced before easily join in the fun. It's a celebration for everyone, regardless of age or experience. In the final days of Obon, the souls of the ancestors return to the spirit world, ending their brief stay in the world of the living. To give them a worthy send-off, families launch small paper boats with candles inside into rivers or the sea, sending them sailing on the water. Imagine this scene: the dark surface of the water, illuminated by hundreds of twinkling lights, slowly drifting away, carrying with them the memory of close and loved ones who have passed into the next world. It is an incredibly touching and beautiful tradition that reminds us that, although our ancestors have left this world, the connection with them remains unbroken, continuing to live in our hearts and memories. Shinto festivals and rituals help us understand how the Japanese communicate with the world of the kami, express gratitude to nature for its generosity, and honor their ancestors, preserving the connection between the past, present, and future. But to truly grasp the essence of this religion, it's necessary to return to its very origin, the myths and legends that lie at its core. They not only explain the structure of the world, but also show how the kami are connected to the lives of people, the nature around them, and their destiny. Let's delve into the fascinating story of the creation of the world according to Shinto and learn about the divine couple Izanagi and Izanami, who became the progenitors of the Japanese islands and all that exists. In the very beginning, the world was chaos, filled with amorphous energy, devoid of any structure or order. There was neither land nor sky, neither oceans nor mountains, neither valleys. Only a vast and impenetrable fog in which the first deities, possessed of incredible power and wisdom, began to manifest. These deities did not actively interfere in the process of creation. They merely observed how order gradually emerged from chaos, how the world formed in its present state. Among these deities appeared Izanagi, a male, and Izanami, a female, the first divine couple who were entrusted with a responsible and important mission, to create the land and fill it with life. To accomplish this mission, they were given a sacred spear adorned with precious stones called Ama no Nuboko, which possessed incredible power. They ascended the heavenly bridge Ame no Ukihashi, connecting heaven and earth, and standing above the primordial ocean, lowered the spear into the water. When they lifted it back up, drops of salt water dripping from the tip of the spear fell into the ocean and turned into the first island, named Onogorojima. Descending onto this island, Izanagi and Izanami decided to continue their great creation and create other lands. To illuminate the world and fill it with life, they performed a sacred marriage ritual, forming a union between themselves. However, their first attempt was unsuccessful, and their firstborn children turned out to be grotesque, weak, and lifeless. The cause of this failure was a violation of the rules of the ritual. Izanami spoke first, not Izanagi, as required by strict regulations. Realizing their mistake and understanding its cause, they repeated the sacred ritual, and this time everything went successfully. Thus, the remaining Japanese islands, forming the Japanese archipelago, came into being. After creating the land, Izanagi and Izanami began to create various deities, who personified natural elements and phenomena, filling the world with life and diversity. Among them were the gods of wind, mountains, rivers, seas, and trees. Each of them became an integral part of the world, helping it to develop and prosper. However, tragedy struck with the birth of the fire god Kagutsuchi. Izanami suffered fatal burns from his flames and, unable to bear the unbearable pain, died, leaving Izanagi in deep sorrow. Her death became the first tragic event in mythology, because until that moment, the world had been filled only with creation, joy, and love. Izanami descended into Yomi, the dark world of the dead, a place of shadows and eternal darkness from which there is no return. Izanagi, overwhelmed by inconsolable grief and despair, could not accept the loss of his beloved wife and decided to bring her back to the world of the living at any cost. He went after her to Yomi, hoping to persuade her to return with him. When Izanagi finally reached Yomi, he found his beloved Izanami in a dark and gloomy place where only sadness and despair reigned. She warned him, saying, "You must not look at me under any circumstances until I ask the gods for permission to return to the world of the living and appear before you in my former appearance." However, Izanagi, unable to restrain his curiosity and longing, disobeyed her warning and lit a bright torch to see the face of his beloved, whom he missed so dearly. And what he saw filled him with horror and despair. Izanami's body was disfigured by decay, covered with repulsive worms, and shrouded in impenetrable darkness. Enraged that he had violated her request and seen her in such a state, Izanami transformed into a formidable goddess of the underworld and vowed to pursue him to the end of time. Izanagi, seized by fear and terror, rushed to flee, and Izanami sent hordes of terrifying Yomi demons after him to seize him and return him to the world of the dead. Barely managing to escape from the underworld, Izanagi closed the entrance to the world of the dead with a huge stone, to forever sever the connection between the world of the living and the world of shadows. At this place, the first and final separation of the world of the living and the world of the dead occurred, putting an end to their unity. Izanami remained in Yomi, becoming the goddess of death and the ruler of the underworld, while Izanagi returned to the world of the living to cleanse himself of the defilement he had touched by being in the realm of the dead. Returning from Yomi, Izanagi felt that darkness and death had permeated his entire body, poisoning it with their venom. To get rid of this, he performed a purification ritual, washing himself in a clear river to wash away all the filth and impurity. This act became the symbolic beginning of all the purification rituals that are still practiced in Shinto, helping people to cleanse themselves of negative energy and restore harmony. During this ablution, new gods were born from Izanagi's body, becoming some of the most important and revered in the Japanese pantheon. Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun, illuminating the world with her radiance, born from his left eye. Tsukuyomi, the god of the moon, giving nocturnal light, born from his right eye. Susanoo, the god of storms and chaos, the lord of thunder and winds, born from his nose. These gods became central figures in Shinto mythology, and their stories continue to tell of the eternal struggle between order and chaos, light and darkness, good and evil, reminding us of the need to maintain balance in the world. After the world was created and the gods began to inhabit it, Japanese mythology focused on the relationships between the kami, on their characters, strengths and weaknesses, and on their actions, determining the fate of the world. Among them, Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun, whose bright radiance became the source of light and heat for all living things on earth, stands out in particular. Her story is not only a personification of light and life, but also a dramatic legend, revealing the complex relationships between the kami, which is directly related to the Japanese imperial dynasty, considered descendants of the sun goddess. Amaterasu was born from Izanagi's left eye, when he performed a purification ritual after his return from the dark world of the dead. It is believed that her appearance marked the dawn of a new era, the beginning of a new light in the newly created world, which needed warmth and care. Amaterasu became the ruler of the heavens, personifying the sun, warmth, light and life, giving everything necessary for existence. Her name translates as she who shines in the heavens, and her role was central to the entire pantheon of Japanese gods. Just like in any family, even among the kami, conflicts, disputes and disagreements arose, leading to serious consequences for the entire world. One of the most well-known and dramatic episodes in Japanese mythology involves Amaterasu's seclusion in a celestial cave, which plunged the world into darkness, leaving people without light and warmth. Susanoo, Amaterasu's younger brother, was known for his wild and untamed nature, which often led to trouble. His association with storms and chaos made him unpredictable and dangerous to those around him. After being banished from the heavens for his audacity and disobedience, Susanoo decided to bid farewell to his beloved sister before leaving the celestial realms. However, instead of a peaceful goodbye, he caused utter chaos, committing terrible acts. In a fit of rage, he stormed into her heavenly palace, began mercilessly destroying the rice fields that provided food for the gods, and desecrated all the sacred chambers, showing no respect for his sister's divine power. His most outrageous and unforgivable act was throwing a dead horse into the sacred hall where the weavers were busy making celestial garments. This disgusting act not only ruined the loom, but also caused panic and chaos, resulting in the death of one of the weavers, who couldn't withstand the shock. This was the final straw that broke Amaterasu's patience. Offended, frightened, and enraged by her brother's antics, Amaterasu hid in a deep celestial cave, which has since become known as the Heavenly Rock Cave, forever sealing the entrance behind her. Without her bright light, the world instantly plunged into darkness, deprived of warmth and life. The fields stopped yielding crops, plants withered, animals fell silent, life froze, and all the kami began to worry that this impenetrable darkness might destroy everything they had worked so hard to create, and that was so dear to them. The gods gathered an emergency council to come up with a way to lure Amaterasu out of her hiding place and bring light back into the world. They decided that the only way to bring back the sun goddess was to create as much noise, fun, and joy as possible, which could attract her attention and awaken her curiosity. The main protagonist of this ingenious plan was Ame no Uzume, the goddess of mirth, laughter, music and dance, who possessed an incredible sense of humor. She boldly approached the very entrance of the cave and began to perform an eccentric and provocative dance, using all her skill and talent. Uzume removed some of her clothing, made funny and lewd movements, and emitted loud and infectious sounds of laughter. This attracted the attention of all the kami, who, forgetting their sorrow and sadness, began to laugh, make noise, and revel with her, creating an unimaginable clamor and din. At this time, other gods prepared a large mirror, polished to a shine, which was adorned with branches of blossoming cherry trees and sparkling jewels to further attract Amaterasu's attention. When Amaterasu, drawn by the unusual noise and merriment, curiously cracked open the entrance to the cave, she saw her reflection in the mirror, illuminated by a bright light. The goddess was struck by her own radiance, which she had not seen for a long time while in the dark cave. This made her take a step outside to get a better look at her reflection. As soon as Amaterasu fully emerged from the cave, the world was once again filled with bright light, warmth, and life, banishing darkness and gloom. Taking advantage of the moment, the kami quickly blocked the entrance to the cave with a huge rock, so that Amaterasu could not return and plunge the world into darkness again. The gloom receded, and life on Earth began to gradually recover, returning to its former course. The legend of Amaterasu has deep roots in Japanese history and culture, having a huge impact on the Japanese worldview. She is considered the progenitor of the Japanese emperors, granting them divine origin and the right to rule. This inextricable link emphasizes the divine origin of the ruling dynasty and its special role in the life of the country as an intermediary between heaven and earth. Amaterasu passed on her power to her grandson, Ninigi no Mikoto, and sent him to Earth to become the first ruler of Japan and found the imperial dynasty. Along with him, she gave 3 sacred symbols that became signs of imperial power, confirming its legitimacy: a mirror, a sword, and a jewel. These symbols are still carefully preserved by the Japanese imperial family and are considered sacred relics, passed down from generation to generation. The mirror, known as Yata no Kagami, symbolizes truth, wisdom, and purity, reflecting the essence of things. The sword, called Kusanagi no Tsurugi, symbolizes strength, courage, and protection from enemies, guarding the country. The jewels, or Yasakani no Magatama, symbolize prosperity, well-being, and harmony in society. Ninigi became the founder of the imperial dynasty, and the first Japanese emperor, Emperor Jimmu, is considered his direct descendant, receiving power from the gods. Thus, the Japanese emperors are traditionally perceived as descendants of the sun goddess, which emphasizes their special connection with the heavens, with the kami, and with the spiritual world. The story of Amaterasu is not just a fascinating myth, filled with symbolism and deep meaning. It teaches how light, truth, joy, and harmony can overcome chaos, darkness, and evil. Her seclusion in the cave shows that discord, enmity, and disrespect for each other can lead to darkness and suffering. But united efforts, fun, wisdom, and love can bring the world back to life and restore harmony. This story also emphasizes the importance of collective action, unity, and cooperation in achieving a common goal. Only through the joint work of all the kami and their willingness to make sacrifices could light return to the world, dispelling the darkness. And Amaterasu's role as the progenitor of the imperial family emphasizes her central importance to Japanese identity, culture, and statehood. Now, knowing about the important role of the sun goddess and her inextricable link with the Japanese imperial dynasty, let's continue our fascinating journey into the world of Japanese mythology and learn more about the other kami that inhabit it, and about their amazing legends full of adventures and heroism. After the story of the wise, bright and noble Amaterasu personifying light and harmony, let's turn our attention to her younger brother, Susanoo, the god of storms, winds and chaos, who is her complete opposite. If Amaterasu symbolizes light, order, harmony and creation, then Susanoo is the unbridled force of nature in its wild, uncontrollable and destructive form, capable of both creating and destroying. His complex and contradictory character is the eternal confrontation of two principles, good and evil, order and chaos. He could be both destructive, sowing chaos and destruction around him, and at the same time heroic, performing noble deeds and protecting the weak. Susanoo's story is full of dramatic events, exciting adventures, and heroic feats, of which his victory over the giant eight-headed serpent, Yamata no Orochi, which terrorized the entire area, stands out in particular. From the very beginning of his existence, he showed an explosive and unpredictable nature, which made him a figure that aroused both admiration and respect, as well as fear and apprehension. Susanoo was known for his wild and rebellious behavior, which often led to conflicts with other kami. When he decided to leave the heavens to visit his mother Izanami in the gloomy world of the dead, his actions began to threaten the order that the kami had established with such difficulty. As we know, his conflict with Amaterasu reached its climax when he angrily destroyed her rice fields, desecrated her sacred domains, and threw a dead horse into her palace, causing the world to plunge into darkness and chaos. As a result, his unrestrained behavior led to his banishment from the heavens, from where he could no longer return. But banishment was not the end of his exciting story. On the contrary, this event became the beginning of his adventures on Earth, where he was able to prove that he could be not only a destroyer sowing chaos, but also a hero protecting the weak and needy. After his banishment, Susanoo found himself on Earth in the province of Izumo, located on the coast of the Sea of Japan. There he accidentally met an old man and an old woman who were crying bitterly, sobbing inconsolably. Susanoo asked them the reason for their sorrow, and the old man told him a tragic story. Every year, a giant eight-headed and eight-tailed serpent, known as Yamata no Orochi, came to their village to take one of their daughters and devour her alive. This serpent was so huge and powerful that its body stretched for 8 valleys and 8 mountain ranges, and its eyes burned like 2 huge fireballs, instilling terror in all who saw it. The old man and old woman had 8 daughters, but 7 of them had already been mercilessly eaten by the serpent, leaving them in deep sorrow. Only one daughter remained, the beautiful Kushinada Hime, and she was also about to be given to be torn apart by the terrible monster, leaving the old people with no hope. Susanoo, touched by their sorrow, offered his help, promising to defeat the serpent at all costs and save their daughter from imminent death. But in return for his help, he asked for permission to take Kushinada Hime as his wife, as he was very fond of her beauty and kindness. The old man and old woman, seeing no other way out, gladly agreed to his offer, willing to do anything to save their daughter. Then Susanoo began to carefully prepare for the upcoming battle with the monstrous serpent, understanding that it would not be easy. He developed a cunning and devious plan to deceive the serpent and deprive it of its strength. Together with the peasants, he brewed 8 large barrels of sake, traditional Japanese rice wine, which was so strong and intoxicating that its aroma was capable of intoxicating even the strongest creatures. Then these barrels were skillfully placed in those places where the Yamata no Orochi serpent usually came to rest and have a bite. When Yamata no Orochi appeared, its 8 huge heads simultaneously reached for the barrels of sake, attracted by their intoxicating aroma. Each head eagerly plunged into the barrels to drink all the wine to the last drop. The serpent became so intoxicated that it lost control of its body and could not move, becoming an easy target for Susanoo. Taking advantage of its helpless state, Susanoo drew his sword, and with one mighty blow slew the monstrous serpent, freeing the people from its terrible reign. As he began to cut the serpent's body into pieces, he discovered a sacred sword in one of its tails, possessing incredible power, which later became known as Kusanagi, the grass-cutting sword, capable of slicing through anything in its path. This sword became one of the 3 sacred imperial regalia of Japan, symbolizing authority, strength, and protection from enemies. The Kusanagi sword was passed down through generations of Japanese emperors, serving as a symbol of their divine right to rule. It is believed that it is currently housed at the Atsuta Shrine, located in the city of Nagoya. However, it is never shown to the public, kept secret from prying eyes. This emphasizes its sacred status and its role as a holy symbol, not merely a physical object. After his victory over Yamata no Orochi, Susanoo took the sword from the serpent's tail as a trophy and a sign of his valor and heroism. He offered this sword as a gift to his sister Amaterasu, as a gesture of reconciliation and recognition of her greatness after their long and bitter quarrel, which had led to his banishment from the heavens and the loss of his position. Amaterasu, in turn, accepted this gift and preserved the Kusanagi sword as a symbol of divine power, protection, and reconciliation, restoring harmony to the heavenly realms. Susanoo remains one of the most controversial, yet popular and beloved figures in Japanese mythology, attracting attention with his complex character and heroic deeds. His vivid image is often used in art, literature, and even in modern popular culture as a symbol of strength, courage, valor, and heroism. Despite his chaotic and destructive nature, he has become an example of how even the most destructive forces can be used for good if directed properly. Now, knowing about Susanoo's exploits and his difficult fate, we can better understand how Japanese mythology views the eternal struggle between chaos and order, between destruction and creation, emphasizing the need to maintain a balance between these opposing forces. The following myths and legends will show us even more about the kami inhabiting this amazing world and their important roles in maintaining harmony within it. After the thrilling story of Susanoo, the god of storms and chaos, let us turn our attention to another key figure in Japanese mythology, Tsukuyomi, the god of the moon. Tsukuyomi is the embodiment of night, tranquility, silence, mystery, and contemplation. Unlike the bright, active, and energetic Amaterasu and the explosive, unpredictable Susanoo, Tsukuyomi seems more restrained, calm, and balanced. But his character is also full of contradictions and mysteries that remain to be unraveled. His stories are not as numerous or well-known as those of other kami, but their deep symbolism and influence on mythology and Japanese culture play an important role in shaping the Japanese worldview. Tsukuyomi came into being as a result of a purification ritual performed by Izanagi after returning from the gloomy land of the dead to cleanse his body and rid himself of the impurity he had touched in the underworld. From his right eye emerged the beautiful Tsukuyomi, and he was given dominion over the moon, over the night sky, and over all the mysteries that lurk in the night. The name Tsukuyomi translates to moon reader, moon gazer, or moon counter, indicating his connection to the lunar cycle and his role as a guardian of time. His very name speaks to his calm, focused, and observant nature, inclined towards contemplation. Tsukuyomi was not associated with storms or fire like his brother Susanoo, nor did he carry radiance and life like Amaterasu, but he personified the night, peace, quiet, and mystery, granting rest to the weary and tranquility to those seeking solitude. Together with his sister Amaterasu, he symbolized the harmony and balance between day and night, light and darkness, masculine and feminine principles, emphasizing the necessity of the unity of opposites. The most famous legend about Tsukuyomi tells of his tragic encounter with the food goddess Ukemochi no Kami. This myth became a turning point, that forever changed his relationship with his sister Amaterasu, leading to their separation. When Amaterasu asked Tsukuyomi to visit Ukemochi, she wanted to express her gratitude for her generosity and ability to provide gods and people with food, which gives them the strength to live. Ukemochi possessed an amazing and somewhat strange magical power to create a variety of foods from her own body, transforming it into delicious dishes. To demonstrate her unique abilities and treat her guest, she began to prepare a feast using her unusual skills. However, her cooking methods might shock an unprepared viewer accustomed to more traditional ways. She breathed out ready-made fish from her mouth, extracted fresh rice from her nose, and produced delicious meat from other parts of her body, demonstrating her extraordinary power. For Ukemochi, this was an act of generosity, munificence, and a sincere desire to please her guest, as well as a manifestation of her unique magic that allowed her to create food from herself. But for Tsukuyomi, these actions seemed disgusting, indecent, and impure, causing him revulsion and anger. His strict sense of order and cleanliness rebelled against what he considered unacceptable and defiling. In a fit of rage and disgust, Tsukuyomi drew his sword and mercilessly killed Ukemochi without thinking about the consequences. This cruel act shocked all the gods who were watching, but especially Amaterasu, who was horrified by what had happened. She saw in this not just an act of cruelty and disrespect for hospitality, but also a gross violation of the harmony and balance that she so cherished and strived to maintain. When Amaterasu learned of the tragic death of Ukemochi, she was so outraged and angered by her brother's actions that she refused to have any further dealings with Tsukuyomi and never wanted to see him again. She declared that she would never meet him again, nor share the celestial sphere with him. And from that moment on, day and night began to exist separately from each other, never intersecting. This is why the sun and moon never appear in the sky at the same time, continuing their eternal separation. This myth reveals two important traits of Tsukuyomi's character: his strict morality and his heightened sense of purity, both physical and spiritual. Tsukuyomi could not accept Ukemochi's actions because he considered them indecent, impure, and offensive to the gods. He acts as a defender of order and purity, seeking to maintain harmony in the world. But his harsh and impulsive reaction led to catastrophic consequences, disrupting the balance and causing conflict. And the second important trait is his inability to understand the deeper meaning of things and appreciate the true value of what is happening. Tsukuyomi saw only the external, superficial side of what was happening and failed to appreciate the generosity, kindness, and magic behind Ukemochi's actions, focusing only on their outward unpleasantness. This highlights his limited perception of the world, which is often associated with the moon, reflecting light but not providing its own warmth, remaining cold and aloof. The separation of the sun and moon, caused by this tragic conflict, symbolizes the impossibility of achieving complete harmony between different forces of nature, their eternal opposition, and the pursuit of balance. Even the gods, representing order and harmony, can come into conflict with each other, leading to inevitable changes in the world and disruption of equilibrium. Although there are not as many myths about Tsukuyomi as about other kami, his image is deeply rooted in Japanese culture, influencing art and aesthetics. The moon in Japan has always been associated with beauty, silence, tranquility, and contemplation, inspiring poets and artists. These qualities reflect the character of Tsukuyomi, the god of the moon, bestowing peace and tranquility. The Tsukimi festival, moon viewing, is one of the most important traditional holidays in Japan. It is an ancient tradition where people gather to admire the full moon, sing songs, write poems, and enjoy each other's company. This celebration reflects Tsukuyomi's deep connection with aesthetics, meditation, and spiritual enlightenment. After stories of the great gods of Japanese mythology and their influence on the world, it is time to move on to another important page in the history of Japan, the advent of Buddhism and its spread throughout the country. This stage became a significant turning point when the Japanese began to master a new religion brought from abroad and skillfully integrated it into their existing traditions, creating a unique religious synthesis. Let's explore how Buddhism came to Japan, what difficulties it overcame on its path, how it transformed to organically coexist with Shintoism, and what important role these two religions play in the lives of the Japanese. Buddhism appeared in Japan in the 6th century AD and became a kind of valuable gift from neighboring Korean states seeking to spread their influence. This momentous event not only changed the spiritual landscape of Japan, but also had a profound impact on its culture, art, architecture, literature, philosophy, and politics, shaping the further development of the country. Buddhism was brought to Japan in 552 from the Korean kingdom of Baekje, located on the Korean peninsula. The Korean ruler sent the Japanese imperial court a statue of the Buddha, sacred Buddhist texts known as sutras, and various ritual objects as a valuable gift, accompanying them with a polite letter stating that Buddhism is a great and wise religion capable of bringing peace, prosperity, and spiritual enlightenment to all who practice it. Initially, Buddhism was received by Japanese society with caution and some skepticism. The Japanese already had deeply ingrained traditional beliefs rooted in Shinto, and the emergence of a new foreign religion sparked fierce debate and disagreement among the aristocracy, who feared for the preservation of their power and influence. Some viewed Buddhism as a threat to their ancient customs, traditions, and established beliefs, striving to preserve their distinct identity. Others saw it as an opportunity to strengthen cultural and political ties with the continent and adopt best practices. The real impetus for the widespread adoption of Buddhism in Japan came from Prince Shotoku Taishi, who lived in the late 6th and early 7th centuries AD and was an outstanding statesman, thinker, and reformer. He became one of the main patrons of Buddhism, actively supporting the construction of new temples, generously funding the translation of complex Buddhist texts into Japanese, and comprehensively training monks, thereby promoting the spread of Buddhist knowledge. It was through the efforts of Shotoku Taishi that Buddhism became perceived in Japanese society not only as a foreign influence, but also as a powerful tool for strengthening spiritual, moral, and political order, contributing to the unification of the country. The Japanese never saw Buddhism as an absolute replacement for their ancient traditions and beliefs. Instead, they found a unique way to integrate it into their cultural and religious life, creating a harmonious synthesis of Shinto and Buddhism, enriching the spiritual world of the country. This complex and lengthy process of adaptation transformed Buddhism into a unique form, distinct from Indian and Chinese traditions, acquiring its own characteristics. Shinto, as we know, was focused on the veneration of nature, of life, of connection with ancestors, and of worship of the kami inhabiting the world. Buddhism, with its profound teachings on rebirth, karma, samsara, and liberation from suffering through the attainment of nirvana, provided answers to complex questions about death, the meaning of life, and existence after death. The Japanese did not oppose these two different worldviews, but found a way to harmoniously unite them, creating a unique religious system. For example, Shinto is responsible for birth, for life, for well-being, and for prosperity. People turn to the kami to ask for blessings at weddings, at the birth of children, at the beginning of new endeavors, or in everyday life, seeking to enlist their support. Buddhism, on the other hand, is associated with death, with funeral rites, with the commemoration of the departed, and with hope for rebirth in a better world. At funerals, at memorial services, and in prayers for the souls of the dead, it is Buddhism that plays a key role, helping to soothe the souls of those who have passed away and alleviate the grief of loved ones. This clear division of spheres of influence and responsibility has helped the two religions to coexist peacefully for many centuries, mutually enriching and complementing each other. Another striking example of the adaptation of Buddhism to Shinto is the coexistence of Buddhist temples and Shinto shrines located in close proximity to each other. In some places, they can be found side by side, and sometimes even within the same complex, symbolizing harmony and unity. For example, in the Nara period in the 6th century AD, temples dedicated to both religions were often built, uniting them in one place. The harmony between Buddhism and Shinto is one of the unique and distinctive features of Japanese culture, inspiring admiration throughout the world. It demonstrates how even different and seemingly incompatible religions can coexist peacefully, complementing each other and enriching the spiritual life of society. This is a striking example of how respect, tolerance, and openness to new ideas can enrich society and make it more prosperous. The emergence of Buddhism in Japan did not cause conflict or religious war, but on the contrary, opened up new horizons for the spiritual development of the country, expanding its capabilities and enriching its culture. Now that we know how these two religions coexist in harmony, let us delve into their symbolism and influence on Japanese society to better understand their essence. Over time, Buddhism began to develop in Japan in several directions, each of which left its unique and indelible mark on Japanese culture, art, and philosophy. One of the most significant and influential schools which manifested itself particularly vividly in Japan was Zen Buddhism, which had a huge impact on Japanese culture. Its philosophy, spiritual practice, and enormous influence on art and culture still remain an inexhaustible source of inspiration for both the Japanese and people around the world interested in spiritual development. Zen Buddhism originated in China under the name Chan and was brought to Japan in the 8th century AD, having a huge impact on Japanese society. The main focus in Zen is on the direct experience of reality, the direct comprehension of truth and enlightenment, which is achieved through meditation, self-reflection, and the abandonment of logical thinking. It is a unique school of Buddhism that strives for simplicity, spontaneity, inner awareness, and harmony with the surrounding world. At the heart of Zen Buddhism is the practice of Zazen, meditation in a seated posture, which is the foundation of spiritual practice and the path to enlightenment. But this is not just sitting in silence, but deep spiritual work that requires focus and self-discipline. Zazen is an effective way to cleanse the mind of unnecessary thoughts, worries, anxieties, and egoistic attachments that prevent one from seeing the true nature of things. In the process of meditation, practitioners strive to see their true nature, realize their connection with all that exists, and reach the state of Satori, a sudden enlightenment that opens up a true understanding of the world that goes beyond logic and reason. Meditation in Zen does not require complex rituals, special knowledge, or in-depth study of sacred texts. All that is needed to start practicing is silence, tranquility, the correct posture, focus on breathing, and a willingness to let go of all the unnecessary thoughts and worries that interfere with concentration. This simple and accessible approach has made Zen attractive to many people who were looking for simplicity, clarity, and a direct path to the truth that did not require complicated rituals. The philosophy of Zen has found its bright and unique reflection in Japanese art, having a huge impact on it. Zen Buddhism teaches that true beauty is something that lies in simplicity, naturalness, silence, spontaneity, and natural harmony, rather than in excess and pretentiousness. This profound idea formed the basis of many of Japan's artistic and cultural traditions, defining their unique character. One of the most famous and striking manifestations of Zen in art are the famous rock gardens, or kare-sansui, which are a symbol of Zen Buddhist aesthetics. These minimalist, concise, and carefully designed landscapes, consisting of gravel, stones, moss, and a small number of plants, have become a symbol of Zen philosophy, embodying the ideas of simplicity, contemplation, and harmony with nature. Each element of the garden has its own strictly defined place and meaning, and the gravel, carefully laid out in wavy lines, symbolizes water, the sea, or movement, creating the illusion of space and depth. Ryoanji Temple, located in Kyoto, is one of the most famous and impressive examples of this art, attracting thousands of tourists from all over the world. This garden has only 15 stones, but they are arranged in such a way that from any point of view, only 14 of them are always visible. One stone remains hidden from view. This mysterious understatement symbolizes the idea that a complete and comprehensive understanding of the world always goes beyond human perception and reason, leaving room for mystery. Rock gardens are not only contemplated and studied, but also created with a deep, meditative mood, investing in them a part of one's soul. Working on such a garden is itself a Zen practice, requiring focus and attention, where each stone and each line of gravel helps to achieve harmony and inner peace. Another important contribution of Zen to Japanese culture was the tea ceremony, known as chado or sado, which is one of the most famous symbols of Japanese culture. The tea ceremony in Japan is not just the process of preparing and drinking tea, but a complex and carefully thought-out ritual in which every detail, every movement, and every gesture has its own special meaning, creating an atmosphere of harmony and tranquility. A simple cup of tea becomes a way to create a moment of calm, beauty, harmony, tranquility, and connection with the present moment, distracting from everyday worries. The principles of Zen have found their vivid reflection in every aspect of the tea ceremony. The simplicity of the tea room, which is decorated minimally and restrainedly so that nothing distracts from the present moment and disturbs harmony. Concentration on each stage of the tea preparation process, on how the water is heated, on how the powdered green matcha tea is mixed, on how the guest accepts the cup with gratitude, feeling its warmth in their hands. The idea of transience and uniqueness. Each tea ritual is unique and unrepeatable. It will never be repeated exactly the same way, so it is important to appreciate every moment. These rituals not only teach respect for simple things and the ability to see beauty in the small, but also remind us of the value of every moment, of the importance of being in the present, and of the awareness of connection with all that exists. Zen Buddhism has taught the Japanese to find harmony in simple things, to see beauty in the ordinary, and to value every moment of their lives. This is not just a philosophy or religion, but a way of life that encompasses all aspects of human existence, which helps people to be closer to nature, better understand themselves, and value every present moment without being distracted by the past and the future. The principles of Zen have found their reflection even in Japanese architecture, cuisine, calligraphy, poetry, gardening, martial arts, and in many other fields of activity. Zen teaches us to look at the world not with eyes full of expectations, prejudices, and preconceived notions, but with an open heart, capable of seeing beauty, harmony, and wisdom in silence, emptiness, transience, and in the simplest of things. This is a valuable lesson that remains relevant today, inspiring people around the world to spiritual search and self-improvement. Now that we have familiarized ourselves with the basic principles of Zen Buddhism and its profound influence on Japanese art and culture, let us delve into the next part of our fascinating journey to explore other aspects of Buddhist culture in Japan and get acquainted with its diversity. Continuing our journey through the main schools of Buddhism in Japan, let us turn our attention to Jodo Shu, or the Pure Land School, which occupies a special place in the hearts of many Japanese people. This influential teaching came to Japan from India and is distinguished by its accessibility, simplicity, clarity, and emphasis on salvation through faith, which has made it one of the most popular and widespread forms of Buddhism among ordinary people, especially among those who did not have the opportunity to devote much time to complex religious practices. At the center of its teaching is unwavering faith in the Buddha Amida, who offers all beings a path to salvation that does not require complex rituals, deep meditation, or ascetic practices. The Buddha Amitabha, known in the Japanese tradition as the Buddha Amida, is an all-powerful and merciful deity, embodying infinite compassion, boundless love, wisdom, and light, giving hope to all who suffer. It is believed that he dwells in the Pure Land, an ideal world free from suffering, pain, disease, old age, and death, where souls can achieve enlightenment and attain eternal bliss. Legend has it that Amida, while still a bodhisattva, made 48 vows to save all beings from samsara and lead them to his Pure Land, where they can achieve nirvana. One of the most famous and important vows is the solemn promise to accept into the Pure Land everyone who sincerely, with faith and devotion, utters his holy name, regardless of their past life. This vow became the foundation of the Jodo-Shu school's teaching, defining its basic principles and practice. The word bodhisattva comes from the ancient Sanskrit language and translates as one who seeks enlightenment, one who follows the path of the Buddha. However, it is more than just a person walking the path to awakening and spiritual perfection. A bodhisattva is one who consciously refuses to achieve full enlightenment and personal nirvana in order to remain in the world of suffering and help other beings overcome their suffering, break free from the cycle of rebirths, and achieve liberation, showing compassion and love to all. In contrast to Zen Buddhism, which requires long hours of meditation, strict self-control, and in-depth internal search, the Pure Land School offers a simpler, more accessible, and easier path to salvation. All that is required of a believer is sincere and unwavering faith in the Buddha Amida and the constant utterance of his holy name, which is called Nembutsu, expressing their devotion. Nembutsu consists of repeatedly reciting the simple but very important phrase, Namu Amida Butsu, which means, homage to the Buddha Amida, I entrust myself to the Buddha Amida, or I take refuge in the Buddha Amida. This practice does not require special conditions, preparation, or complex rituals, which makes it accessible to everyone. It can be performed anywhere, at any time, and in any state, sitting, standing, walking, or even lying down, without limiting yourself in any way. It is enough to believe that the Buddha Amida will hear your sincere call and show you his mercy and compassion, accepting you into his Pure Land after death. This simplicity, accessibility, and clarity made Jodo-Shu extremely popular among peasants, artisans, merchants, and those who did not have the opportunity to devote much time to complex Buddhist practices, providing them with hope for salvation. The Jodo-Shu school was founded in the 12th century by the esteemed Japanese monk Honen, who sought to ease the path to enlightenment for all. Honen sought a way to make Buddhism accessible and understandable to all people, regardless of their education, social status, wealth, or physical abilities. He came to the conclusion that salvation is possible for every person if they sincerely believe in the boundless mercy, compassion, and love of the Buddha Amida and repeat his name with faith. Honen's teaching spread with incredible speed, covering all segments of the population, as it appealed to ordinary people who felt alienated and detached from the complex rituals, philosophical concepts, and elitist practices of traditional Buddhism, which did not give them hope for salvation. The very idea of the Pure Land, where the Buddha Amida reigns, became a symbol of comfort, hope for deliverance from suffering, and a promise of eternal bliss. It is not just a heavenly realm or paradise, but a place where the soul can find peace, tranquility, happiness, and the opportunity to achieve enlightenment without experiencing more pain and suffering. This was especially important for people who lived in difficult conditions, faced with disease, poverty, grief, and various life difficulties, seeing no light in their future. Unwavering faith in the Pure Land gave them the strength to cope with difficulties, overcome obstacles, and find meaning in life despite all the adversities. Although the path to salvation in the Pure Land School is simple and accessible to everyone, the Jodoshu School also includes various symbols, rituals, and practices that help strengthen faith, create an atmosphere of spirituality, and support believers on their path to enlightenment. Statues of the Buddha. Amida. They depict the Buddha with a gentle, calm, and merciful expression on his face, often sitting in a meditative posture with his hands folded in a special gesture symbolizing blessing and protection from troubles. Prayer beads, known as juzu. These are used to count repetitions of the Nembutsu, to focus on the practice and not be distracted by extraneous thoughts. And finally, chants and collective prayers. Such rituals help to unite people in a common faith, creating a sense of community, support, and belonging to a large spiritual family. Today, the Pure Land School remains one of the most popular and widespread forms of Buddhism in Japan, attracting millions of followers with its simplicity and accessibility. It reminds us that the spiritual path can be simple, accessible, and understandable to everyone, regardless of their abilities and capabilities, and that faith and sincerity are the most important things on the path to salvation. This school teaches us that even in a world of suffering, pain, and injustice, there is always room for hope, mercy, compassion, and faith in a better future. Now, knowing about the basic principles of the Jodoshu School and its enormous significance for Japanese society, we can continue our fascinating journey through other aspects of Buddhism in Japan, discovering new facets of its wisdom. We move on to the next chapter of our narrative, where we delve deeper into one of the most important and fundamental philosophical concepts of Buddhism, which is closely intertwined with Japanese culture, worldview, and daily life. The concept of karma and rebirth, which defines the moral principles and behavior of people. This chapter is not just about religious dogma, the afterlife, or reward and punishment for one's actions, but about how these profound ideas affect everyday life, art, literature, relationships between people, and even the mindset of the Japanese, shaping their worldview. Life is like a river, constantly flowing and changing, carrying us forward. Every movement we make, every action, every word we utter, and every thought creates ripples in the water that spread far beyond what we can see and realize, influencing the world around us. This beautiful metaphor perfectly describes how the Japanese perceive karma and rebirth, not as a set of strict laws, religious dogmas, or abstract concepts, but as a living, invisible fabric that permeates all things and connects our every action, every thought, and every word with the world around us, shaping our destiny. In the Japanese view, karma is a kind of invisible energy trail that everything we do, think, feel, or say leaves behind, affecting our future life. But this is not a cold and soulless theory, not a gloomy scare story of do something bad and expect inevitable punishment, but a wise reminder that every action, even the most insignificant, has consequences that can manifest themselves both in the near future and in subsequent lives, determining our fate. Imagine waking up in the morning in a good mood and sincerely smiling at your neighbor on the way to work. For you, it was just a trifle, an insignificant gesture of politeness, but for him, perhaps that smile became a ray of light on a difficult day, lifting his spirits and instilling hope. Or vice versa. You said something offensive and sharp in a fit of anger. You yourself forgot about it a minute later, and the person then thinks about these words all day, experiencing pain and resentment. This is how karma lives and manifests itself in Japanese culture through inconspicuous trifles. through everyday actions and words that shape the world around us, creating either harmony or chaos. Now imagine that life is not a straight line stretching from birth to death, but an endless cycle of rebirths, where our every action shapes not only our present, but also our future, determining who we will become in the next life. This is the Japanese understanding of rebirth, samsara. Here, death is not the end of everything, but only a transition to a new state, a gateway to the next life, where we will have the opportunity to correct our mistakes and continue our spiritual development. This concept is known as the Wheel of Samsara, rotating endlessly. This unique view of life makes it more meaningful, filling it with responsibility and purpose. Everything we do does not disappear without a trace into the void, but leaves its mark on our karma, influencing our future. It's like planting a tree. Maybe you will never see it in full bloom and will not be able to enjoy its fruits, but future generations will definitely feel its cool shade on a hot day, enjoy its beauty, and taste its fruits. The belief in rebirth gives the Japanese a deep sense of responsibility, not only for their own lives, but also for those who come after us, for future generations who will inherit the world created by us. These profound ideas are not an abstract philosophy that lives only in books and philosophical treatises. They can be felt in the way the Japanese behave every day, in their respect for others, in their pursuit of harmony, and in their care for the world around them. If you ever visit Japan, you will likely notice how attentive people are to detail, how polite and tactful they are in communication. A slight bow of respect, a sincere apology, even if you barely brushed against someone in a crowd. These are all manifestations of an awareness of karma, an understanding that our actions affect other people and the world as a whole. By respecting others, we create harmony that will inevitably return to us, making our lives better. But what about hardships, illnesses, failures, and losses? In Japanese culture, it is believed that all the difficulties and trials that we encounter along our path are valuable lessons that help us grow and develop. Perhaps these troubles are the result of karma from a past life, a payment for mistakes made in the past. But this does not mean that we should give up, despair, or surrender. This is a precious opportunity to become better, correct our mistakes, learn from the past, and find the strength to move forward toward new achievements despite all obstacles. And a beautiful lotus, revered in many cultures, has become a vivid symbol of karma. This amazing and beautiful plant grows from muddy waters, yet its delicate flowers remain pure, unblemished, and beautiful, symbolizing the purity of the soul. It is like a reminder that even when going through difficulties, suffering, and adversity, we can remain bright, kind, and compassionate without losing our humanity. An unwavering belief in karma and rebirth teaches us that we do not live in a vacuum, that we are all interconnected, and that everything we do matters, impacting our lives and the lives of others. And this is not just an abstract philosophy, but a real way of life that makes the world a little better, kinder, and more just. If each of us strives to create positive circles around ourselves by performing good deeds and spreading love, this world will undoubtedly become a little brighter and more joyful. Buddhism is not only a profound teaching about how to live mindfully, how to find harmony with oneself and the world around us, and how to achieve enlightenment, but also an incredibly rich and colorful world of legends, myths, and parables that convey its deep meanings and help us better understand its basic principles. These fascinating stories bring to life the ideals of mercy, compassion, wisdom, selflessness, and the pursuit of truth, inspiring people on a spiritual quest. Today, we will talk about two great and revered figures in Buddhism: Buddha Shakyamuni, the founder of this teaching, and Buddha Amitabha, whose boundless compassion and love have inspired millions of people around the world. The story of Buddha Shakyamuni is an inspiring epic about the search for meaning in life, about overcoming suffering, and about achieving enlightenment, which began with a simple but profound question. Why is there so much suffering in the world, and how can we get rid of it? Buddha Shakyamuni was born more than 2,500 years ago into a wealthy royal family in what is now Nepal, located in South Asia. His mother, Queen Maya, had an unusual vision the night before his birth. A white elephant with 6 tusks entered her womb, foretelling the birth of a great man. This dream was considered a favorable omen, foretelling that her son would become either an almighty and just king ruling the entire world, or an outstanding spiritual teacher opening the path to salvation. According to ancient legend, Buddha Shakyamuni was born in the beautiful Lumbini garden, located under the shade of a mighty sal tree, symbolizing protection and wisdom. It is said that the infant immediately took 7 steps, and under each of his steps, beautiful lotus flowers miraculously bloomed, symbolizing purity and enlightenment. He raised his right hand to the sky and solemnly declared, "This is my last birth," thereby confirming his special destiny and purpose. Such vivid and symbolic images emphasize his extraordinary nature and his important mission in this world. As a prince, Buddha Shakyamuni grew up in incredible luxury, surrounded by wealth, power, and all kinds of pleasures. His father, King Suddhodana, loved his son very much and wanted to protect him from all suffering, sorrows, and misfortunes, surrounding his palace with beauty, comfort, luxury, and non-stop celebrations so that he would never know about the existence of pain and grief in the world. But despite all this wealth and prosperity, the prince felt that something was missing, that his life was devoid of true meaning, and that something more was hidden beyond the palace walls. One day, after leaving the palace and encountering real life, he saw something that turned his whole life upside down and made him think about its meaning. He saw a decrepit old man, bent under the burden of years, a symbol of inevitable aging, which no one can escape. Then he saw a sick man, tormented by pain and suffering, which reminded him of the fragility of the human body and the inevitability of disease. Then he saw a dead man lying in a coffin and realized the terrifying inevitability of death, which sooner or later overtakes everyone. And finally, he met an ascetic, a wandering monk who had renounced worldly goods and devoted his life to the search for truth and spiritual enlightenment. These fateful encounters shook him to the core, shattering his illusory world and forcing him to face the truth. He realized that neither wealth, nor power, nor luxury could protect against suffering, against disease, against old age, and against death, that all people are equal before these inevitable trials. This marked the beginning of his long and difficult spiritual journey, full of deprivation and self-denial. Buddha Shakyamuni, driven by compassion and a thirst to find answers to tormenting questions, left his palace, his beloved family, and his luxurious life to devote himself to the search for truth and to learn how to get rid of the suffering that reigns in the world forever. Years of asceticism, self-restraint, strict discipline, and grueling meditations did not bring the desired result, not bringing him closer to understanding the truth. Until one day, he sat under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, located in India, vowing to himself that he would not get up from this place until he found the truth and achieved enlightenment, no matter how difficult it might be. At night, as he meditated, the demon Mara appeared to him, representing evil, temptation, and fear, who tried to distract him from his goal, tempting him with various pleasures, frightening him with terrible visions, and instilling doubts in him. But Buddha Shakyamuni, thanks to his strong will, unwavering faith, and deep wisdom, was able to overcome all the trials sent to him by Mara, not succumbing to his temptations. At dawn, after a long and arduous struggle, he finally attained enlightenment, seeing the true nature of life, understanding the causes of suffering, and realizing the path to liberation. He understood that everything in the world is part of an endless cycle of rebirths, and that liberation is possible through understanding this truth, through renouncing selfish desires, and through following the noble eightfold path. Thus, Prince Siddhartha Gautama became the Buddha, the enlightened one, and began sharing his teachings with other people, which changed the lives of millions and inspired them on a spiritual quest. If Shakyamuni became an example of a persistent search for truth, selflessness, and perseverance, then Buddha Amitabha gave hope for salvation to all who have despaired, who have lost faith in themselves, and who see no way out of suffering. Buddha Amitabha, while still a bodhisattva, saw the suffering of all beings wandering in the cycle of rebirths and made a solemn vow. He would create an ideal world, free from pain, suffering, malice, hatred, and injustice, where everyone could find peace and happiness. This world became known as the Pure Land. Amitabha vowed that anyone who sincerely, with faith and devotion, calls his holy name, even once in their life, will be accepted into this blessed abode after death and will be able to find long-awaited peace, tranquility, and opportunity for spiritual development there. His 48 vows became the foundation of the Pure Land School, which preaches salvation through faith and encourages everyone to repeat the name of Amitabha. The most important and well-known of these vows are the vow of mercy. Amitabha vowed to save all who sincerely turned to him with faith, regardless of their past life. And the vow of the Pure Land: he created a beautiful place where souls can achieve enlightenment and find peace without facing obstacles and temptations. The Pure Land is not just a paradise or a heavenly kingdom in the usual sense of the word, but a special place where souls can focus on spiritual growth, knowledge of truth, and self-improvement, free from suffering, from disease, from hunger, and from the fear of death. It is an ideal world where harmony, love, compassion reign, and where everything is permeated with bright light and divine grace. The invocation to Buddha Amitabha through the sacred phrase, Namu Amida Butsu, has become one of the most accessible, simple, and effective ways of spiritual practice, allowing each person to get closer to enlightenment. This simple but sincere and faith-filled prayer has allowed millions of people around the world to find comfort, hope, and meaning in life, even in the most difficult moments. The stories of Shakyamuni and Amitabha show us two different but equally important paths in Buddhism leading to the same goal, to liberation from suffering and to the attainment of nirvana. Shakyamuni teaches us to act, to persevere, to strive for knowledge, and to take responsibility for our lives. His inspiring story inspires us to search for truth, to work on ourselves, to develop wisdom, to overcome difficulties, and to strive to understand this complex world. Amitabha teaches us to hope, to believe in mercy and compassion, and not to despair, even in the darkest of times. His touching vows remind us that even in the most difficult and hopeless circumstances, there is always room for hope, for support, for healing, and for love. These ancient legends are not just tales from the distant past that can be read and forgotten. They remain relevant today, reminding us that life is a constant search for balance between action and faith, between working on ourselves and trusting the world, between reason and heart, between willpower and acceptance, between hope and humility. After talking about Buddhism, which has become an integral part of Japanese culture and spiritual life, let's move on to another, more enigmatic and mysterious world, the world of yokai. If Buddhism in Japan introduced the philosophy of harmony, compassion, mindfulness, and the pursuit of enlightenment, then yokai added a unique touch of mystique, fear, mystery, magic, and incredible imagination to Japanese culture, making it more vibrant and multifaceted. Imagine a world where a mysterious being with supernatural abilities might lurk behind every old tree, in the shadow of every abandoned house, or beneath the dark surface of a quiet river, not necessarily good or evil, but simply incomprehensible, mysterious, and unpredictable. This wondrous and frightening world is the world of yokai, supernatural creatures, spirits, monsters, and demons of Japanese mythology that inhabit the world around us. Yokai are not merely scary monsters, evil ghosts, or bloodthirsty demons seeking to harm people. They are complex and multifaceted natural phenomena, the embodiment of human fears, a reflection of ancient myths, and a source of valuable life lessons, all gathered together and brought to life in the most incredible and bizarre forms, astonishing the imagination. The word yokai can be translated as mysterious phenomenon, enigmatic creature, supernatural being, or strange spirit. But in reality, the concept is much deeper, broader, and more multifaceted than a simple translation. Yokai are spirits, demons, monsters, shape-shifting animals, or other supernatural beings believed to dwell in the natural world, in abandoned houses, or parallel to our world, invisible to ordinary people. They can be benevolent, helping people in times of need, malevolent, causing harm and sowing chaos, or entirely neutral, showing no interest in human affairs, but always enigmatic, mysterious, and unpredictable. Their forms range from cute, lovable, and harmless, to horrifying, repulsive, and deadly, inspiring fear and terror. What makes yokai so unique and interesting? They are not just scary characters from folk tales created to frighten children at bedtime. Each yokai is, in a way, a mirror, reflecting human fears, beliefs, prejudices, and relationships with the surrounding nature, being an integral part of Japanese culture. They symbolize what people tried to understand and explain, but could not due to a lack of knowledge. Strange sounds coming from the forest at night, inexplicable diseases, sudden natural disasters, raging rivers that have overflowed their banks, dark and dense forests hiding many dangers. To better understand yokai and their role in Japanese culture, it is necessary to divide them into several main categories based on their character, behavior, and attitude towards people. Each plays a specific role in Japanese mythology, literature, art, and everyday life, influencing the Japanese worldview. Yes, among the yokai are those who do not seek to harm people at all, but on the contrary, protect them, help them in difficult times, or simply add a little magic and wonder to everyday life, making it more interesting and diverse. For example, Jizo, sometimes regarded as a type of yokai, is a kind and merciful spirit or bodhisattva who helps children, travelers, and those in need of protection. Statues of him are often seen along roads, near bridges, at intersections, or in cemeteries where they guard the souls of dead children. There are also neutral yokai, who do not want to harm people, but you shouldn't always expect good from them either. They simply exist in their own world, not interfering in human affairs, and if you don't bother them, they won't touch you, remaining in their dimension. For example, tanuki are funny and good-natured magical raccoon dogs with the ability to transform into humans or various objects to play fun pranks, jokes, and tricks. They are not evil, but they can create a lot of trouble and cause a lot of inconvenience, forcing people into ridiculous situations. Or mokumoku-ren, a mysterious yokai living in old and dilapidated paper screens that were used to divide rooms. If there are holes in the screen, they eventually fill with many eyes that intently watch everything that happens around, causing people to feel anxious and uncomfortable. And finally, the last category is evil and dangerous yokai, who should be feared and avoided. These creatures are the embodiment of everything that can scare a person, representing death, disease, revenge, envy, hatred, fear of the unknown, and other negative emotions. A prime example of an evil and frightening yokai is Tsurube Otoshi, one of the most amazing and memorable creatures in Japanese mythology, inspiring terror in those who see it. Outwardly, they are ordinary women, no different from others, but at night their true and terrible nature is revealed, shocking people. Their necks begin to stretch to incredible lengths, becoming longer and longer, allowing them to peer into the windows of houses, explore the dark corners of the streets, and frighten unsuspecting passers-by, instilling panic in them. This unusual and eerie image is so striking that it has become one of the most vivid and recognizable symbols of Japanese mythology. One old legend tells of a brave man who suspected his wife of being a Tsurara Kurabe because he noticed oddities in her behavior. One night, to test his suspicions, he pretended to be asleep and saw her neck begin to stretch to an incredible length, leaving her body and wandering around the room in search of something interesting. Frightened by what he saw, he hastily left the house, not knowing what to do, but then, overcoming his fear, he returned to his wife and decided to stay with her, despite her unusual and frightening nature, accepting her as she was. This touching story shows that even among yokai, there can be manifestations of love, loyalty, devotion, and compassion, proving that not everything is as clear-cut as it seems at first glance. Another instructive legend tells of a group of wandering monks who stopped for the night in an abandoned house, not suspecting that a Tsurara Kurabe lived there, hiding her true nature. At night, one of the most vigilant monks noticed the woman's neck begin to stretch and reach for their rooms, trying to peek inside. Then the monk, without wasting time, began to loudly recite a protective prayer which had the power to ward off evil spirits, which made the yokai scared and quickly returned to her body without harming anyone. In the morning, the woman, realizing her sin, repented of her actions, apologized to the monks, and promised never to use her powers for evil again. After an exciting journey into the mysterious world of yokai in general, it's time to focus on the most famous and popular ones, those who have stirred the imaginations of the Japanese for centuries, inspiring myths, legends, fairy tales, and even modern pop culture firmly rooted in their consciousness. These amazing creatures are not just spirits, monsters, or demons inhabiting a parallel world, but complex symbols reflecting the multifaceted nature of humanity, hidden fears, ancient beliefs, prejudices, and a close connection with nature, being an integral part of Japanese culture. Imagine a beautiful fox that is not only cunning, smart, and agile, but also has the ability to take human form, deceiving people. In Japanese mythology, such magical foxes are known as kitsune, occupying a special place in folk tales. They can be both beautiful and noble, as well as cunning and dangerous, skillfully manipulating people. Kitsune are not considered ordinary animals, but beings with supernatural magical abilities, whose power grows with age. The older the fox becomes, the more tails it has, symbolizing its wisdom and experience, and the most powerful and wise kitsune can have 9 shining tails, illuminating the night like moonlight. Their complex image embodies wisdom, cunning, strength, beauty, and longevity, but also treachery, unpredictability, and the ability to deceive, warning against excessive credulity. Kitsune often serve the deity Inari, the patron of rice, fertility, prosperity, and success in business, being his faithful assistants. They bring good luck, protect rice fields from pests, protect people from evil spirits, and help them in times of need, showing mercy. If a kitsune appears to you in a dream, warning you of danger, or helps you in real life, then this is a sure sign that you are under its protection and that you are accompanied by good luck. But not all kitsune are so noble, kind, and responsive. Some of them, driven by treachery and a desire to harm, turn into beautiful women to seduce careless men and lead them into trouble, extorting money from them or even taking their lives. They can play with a person's mind, creating illusions that cannot be distinguished from reality, luring them into a trap. One of the most touching and sad stories tells of a young man who married a beautiful and kind woman, not suspecting that she was a kitsune hiding her true nature. They lived happily and in love until one day he accidentally saw her in her true form, revealing her secret. The exposed kitsune was forced to leave him, as she could no longer hide her true nature, but her love for him remained forever in her heart. This sad story is about how difficult it can be to accept someone else's nature, even if you sincerely love that person and are ready to do anything for them, reminding us of the importance of tolerance and understanding. In the dense Japanese forests, on the snow-capped mountain peaks, and in the quiet, secluded temples where eternal silence and twilight reign, live Tengu, inspiring awe and respect. These powerful spirits are depicted as winged creatures with long noses resembling a bird's beak, and their image has changed over the centuries, from terrifying and malicious demons inspiring terror to wise, just, and powerful protectors of nature, guarding its peace. Tengu are spirits of the mountains, embodying strength, independence, wisdom, and mastery, inspiring reverence. They are often depicted as half-human, half-bird creatures with sharp, piercing eyes, strong wings, and impressive beaks or long noses, making them easily recognizable. They are considered unparalleled martial arts masters, proficient in all types of weapons, and wise teachers capable of passing on their knowledge and skills only to worthy students who have proven their dedication. Legend has it that the famous Japanese warrior Minamoto no Yoshitsune was trained in the art of swordsmanship by the Tengu themselves, receiving invaluable knowledge and skills that made him invincible. They showed him that true strength comes not only from physical power, but also from spiritual clarity, self-control, and harmony with the surrounding world. Tengu jealously guard their mountain territories and severely punish anyone who dares to destroy nature, desecrate sacred places, or disturb their peace, unleashing their wrath upon them. At the same time, they can protect those who respect nature, care for it, and ask for their help in times of need, showing mercy. Although over time, Tengu have come to be seen as more positive figures, wise mentors, and protectors of nature, in older legends, they were often portrayed as evil demons who could kidnap lost children or lead unwary travelers astray, luring them deep into the forest and dooming them to perish. These terrifying tales served as a stark warning to those who dared to venture too far into the woods without respect for its inhabitants and without proper preparation. If Kitsune can be both good and evil, and Tengu are more just than cruel, then they are a pure menace, the embodiment of evil, aggression, and destruction. These demonic beings represent fear, chaos, ruin, injustice, and deserved punishment, embodying the darkest and most repulsive aspects of the human soul, which are best kept under control. They are usually depicted as gigantic humanoid creatures with red or blue skin, huge sharp fangs protruding from their mouths, and fearsome horns growing from their heads, making their appearance truly terrifying. They are armed with heavy iron clubs, which they use to crush their enemies, and wear loincloths made of wild animal skins, emphasizing their wildness and ferocity. It seems that they were created only to strike terror into all living things and sow chaos and destruction around them, knowing no pity. They are often associated with hell, where they serve as tormentors, punishing sinners for their misdeeds, torturing them in the most cruel ways. These are terrible creatures that remind people that for every sin committed, there will be a price to pay sooner or later, and that justice will always prevail. But they do not always live in the afterlife, acting as executioners. In some terrifying stories, they descend to earth to wreak havoc, cause suffering, and punish those who have earned their wrath. Sometimes the line between humans and yokai becomes so thin and blurred that real historical figures who lived many years ago begin to be perceived as supernatural beings with incredible abilities. Hattori Hanzo, the eminent ruler of Iga province, legendary samurai, talented tactician, and unparalleled master of ninjutsu, was known for his incredible strength, agility, cunning, and courage, instilling fear in his enemies. His ominous nickname, Devil Hanzo, emphasized his fearsome reputation and his ruthlessness toward enemies. Some people believed that he possessed the abilities of a demon as he moved with incredible speed, creating the impression that he was dissolving into the shadows, disappearing before their very eyes, which seemed impossible for an ordinary human. Each of these yokai is not just a mythological character invented for entertainment or to instill fear. They are reflections of various human qualities, fears, desires, and weaknesses, reminding us that we are all complex and contradictory beings. Kitsune are the embodiment of cunning, treachery, wisdom, and magic. Tengu are a symbol of strength, independence, justice, and wisdom, and they are a reminder of the inevitable consequences of dark deeds, of cruelty and retribution. Together, they create a vivid and multifaceted picture of Japanese mythology, in which good and evil do not always have clear boundaries and where everything is interconnected. These amazing and mysterious creatures remind us that the world is full of secrets, mysteries, and mysterious forces that cannot be fully understood, explained, or controlled. But this is precisely what makes them so fascinating, interesting, and timeless, continuing to inspire generations of people. Japanese folklore is full of stories about various spirits and demons that have become firmly established in the country's culture, becoming an integral part of it. Yurei, Nureonna, and Kappa are not just characters from scary legends passed down by word of mouth. These vivid and memorable beings reflect deeply rooted human fears, the desperate struggle against the forces of nature, and even important moral lessons, warning against rash actions. Let us delve deeper into their tragic and frightening stories and learn what secrets their ancient myths, passed down from generation to generation, hide. Yurei are Japanese ghosts, the souls of the dead who have been unable to find peace after death and are stuck between the world of the living and the world of the dead. They often remain in the world of the living because of strong negative emotions such as revenge, anger, grief, hatred, resentment, fear, longing, or because of some unfinished business that binds them to this world. Their image is easily recognizable and inspires terror. White clothing, symbolizing the shroud in which the dead are clothed, long black hair covering their faces, hiding their anger, and lifeless arms hanging helplessly along their bodies, unable to change anything. According to ancient Japanese beliefs, the soul of a person after death must undergo a complex purification ritual in order to free itself from worldly attachments and pass into the afterlife, where it can find eternal peace. If this did not happen, if the ritual was performed incorrectly, or if the soul is too attached to the world of the living, then the spirit remains bound to the earth, unable to leave it. For example, if a person died a violent death, becoming a victim of murder, his soul becomes a yurei, full of anger, thirst for revenge, and longing for a lost life. One of the most famous and tragic stories about a yurei tells of an unfortunate woman named Iwa, whose life was brutally cut short. She was poisoned by her own husband, who cunningly decided to get rid of her in order to marry another, wealthier and more noble woman. Her face was disfigured by the poison, turning into a terrible mask, and in terrible agony she died, cursing her husband. But her spirit, consumed by a thirst for revenge and unable to find peace, returned to the world of the living to avenge her killer. Iwa began to appear to her husband everywhere, haunting him day and night, in the reflection of the mirror, in his nightmares, in the guise of his new wife, driving him mad. In the end, unable to withstand the constant horror, tormented by guilt and fear, he could not bear it and went insane, paying for his betrayal. Iwa's story became so popular and captivating that it is still depicted in traditional Japanese kabuki theater, in horror films, and in various works of art, scaring audiences and reminding them of the power of revenge. Or, for example, Sayoko Kashima is one of the most chilling and well-known urban legends about Yurei, passed down by word of mouth, frightening people throughout Japan. She was brutally killed, falling under a train, and her body was torn to pieces, depriving her of the opportunity to find peace. Now her restless spirit wanders at night through abandoned railway stations and deserted streets, seeking out her victims and asking them insidious questions about her tragic death, testing their knowledge. If a person does not know the correct answers, then Sayoko takes his life, avenging her martyrdom. This frightening story is a vivid example of how ancient myths and folk beliefs can transform into modern urban legends, adapting to new conditions and continuing to live in people's minds. Nure Onna, which translates to wet woman, is a yokai closely associated with the water element, with rivers, lakes, seas, and oceans. Her appearance is striking in its unusual duality, combining beauty and ugliness. The upper part of her body is a beautiful woman with long black hair reaching the ground, and the lower part is a slippery serpentine body covered in scales, endowed with enormous strength. She often appears on deserted riverbanks, seas, or lakes, attracting the attention of travelers with her strange, mysterious, but captivating beauty, playing on their curiosity. Many scary stories describe her as a cunning creature who lures unwary people into her deadly trap in order to drown them or drink their blood. Nure Onna can pretend to be harmless and helpless and ask an unsuspecting traveler to help her hold a baby while she rests. But as soon as the person takes the child in their arms, they discover that they are holding not a baby, but a huge and impossibly heavy stone that cannot be dropped, stuck to their hands. While the victim is stunned, not understanding what is happening, the Nure Onna attacks, using her sharp teeth and claws, sucking all the blood from her victim down to the last drop. One of the well-known and instructive stories tells of a brave and clever fisherman who saw a Nure Onna on a deserted riverbank. She affectionately asked him for help, but he, noticing her serpentine nature and suspecting something was wrong, offered her a fresh cucumber instead of help, knowing that they are very fond of this delicacy. She, surprised by his mind, resourcefulness, and caution, let him go unharmed, without causing him any harm. This wise story is a reminder that intelligence, resourcefulness, caution, and knowledge of the habits of yokai can save you from any danger, even the most deadly. And finally, kappa are some of the most famous, recognizable, and beloved yokai in Japan, occupying a special place in folklore. These mischievous and playful water spirits are depicted as small humanoid creatures, the size of a child, with green scaly skin, similar to reptile skin, with webbed feet, with a turtle shell on their back, and with a depression, similar to a plate, on their head, filled with water, which is the source of their power. It is the water in this depression that gives the kappa its magical power, and if it is poured out, the kappa instantly becomes weak, helpless, and vulnerable. Kappa are considered dangerous creatures, as they drag unwary people into the water to drown them or tear out their internal organs, which they feed on. Kappas are particularly dangerous to small children, whom they lure into rivers and lakes to drown, so parents always warn their children about the danger of approaching the water unsupervised. They also have a great fondness for stealing fresh cucumbers from gardens, causing farmers considerable trouble. Kappas adore cucumbers, and in some villages there is still an ancient tradition of throwing fresh cucumbers into the water as an offering to these water spirits to protect people from drowning. Despite their mischievous, playful, and sometimes dangerous nature, kappas can be grateful, fair, and loyal to their friends. If a person manages to outsmart a kappa by showing ingenuity and respect, for example, by causing it to bow in greeting, which will cause the water to spill from its head, the kappa becomes indebted to that person and must serve them faithfully. In gratitude for the honor shown to it, the kappa may share secrets of medicine, teach useful skills, help solve complex problems, or warn of danger, demonstrating its devotion. Once, a resourceful farmer caught a kappa stealing his painstakingly grown cucumber crop from the garden by setting a clever trap. Instead of punishing the thief and driving it away, the farmer wisely offered the kappa a kind of deal. If the kappa no longer stole cucumbers from his garden, the farmer would regularly treat it to fresh and juicy cucumbers without harming it. The kappa, impressed by the farmer's kindness and generosity, gladly agreed to his offer, and from then on it became the farmer's faithful helper, helping him water the fields, ward off pests, and harvest the crops, demonstrating its gratitude. This instructive story is a vivid reminder that even the strangest and most unusual creatures can become reliable allies if treated with kindness, respect, and understanding. Yokai, these mysterious and multifaceted creatures of Japanese folklore that populate the world, have never been simply made-up monsters created to frighten disobedient children at night, forcing them to obey their parents. For the Japanese, they have always been something much more than just scary tales. They were an important link between nature, the supernatural, and the spiritual world, embodying the mysterious forces at work in the world. To truly understand yokai and their significance, one must view them through the lens of Shinto and Buddhism, the two main religions of Japan, which not only explain their existence, but also helped people find common ground with them, establishing rules of coexistence. In Shinto, the world is not just what we see with our eyes, not only the material world accessible to our senses. Mountains, rivers, forests, waterfalls, lakes, cliffs, and even stones can be homes to kami, divine spirits who embody the very essence of nature, endowing it with life and energy. Yokai in this context were seen as an integral part of this vast and complex system, as a manifestation of the power of the kami. They are a part of nature that must be respected, honored, and protected in order to maintain harmony. Imagine a kappa sitting peacefully on a riverbank, enjoying the silence and tranquility. To the Japanese, it was not just a mischievous spirit who might drag someone into the water as a prank, but a guardian of the river, protecting it from pollution and safeguarding its inhabitants. If you treat the water with respect, do not pollute it, and make offerings of fresh cucumbers, the kappa might even help you, ensuring a good catch and protecting you from misfortune. This is a wonderful and wise philosophy. Yokai do not simply frighten. They remind us of the importance of living in harmony with the world around us, showing respect for nature and its inhabitants. Kitsune, who serve Inari, the deity of fertility, are another prime example of the complex relationship between humans and yokai, highlighting their important role in society. These cunning and powerful foxes were more than just enigmatic yokai. They became faithful messengers of the deities, performing important tasks such as protecting temples from evil spirits, conveying divine blessings to people, and ensuring prosperity. And while Kitsune might play tricks on people, deceiving them and setting various traps for them, the underlying idea behind their actions was always that the world of spirits and the world of humans are closely intertwined and influence each other, maintaining balance. With the arrival of Buddhism in Japan, the attitude towards yokai became even deeper, more complex, and multifaceted, enriching Japanese culture with new ideas. In Buddhism, every soul goes through an endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, striving for enlightenment, and yokai began to be seen as beings who were stuck on this difficult path due to their negative actions, earthly attachments, or unresolved conflicts. Consider Oni, the fearsome demons with horns who torment sinners in hell, subjecting them to terrible tortures. In Buddhism, they are not just monsters created to intimidate, but the result of bad karma accumulated throughout life. This is a stark reminder that our actions have consequences that can haunt us even after death, affecting our subsequent rebirths. They punish sinners not because they are evil themselves, but because such is the just order of things, and everyone must be held accountable for their actions. Yurei, tragic ghosts who have not found peace, bound to the earth by their grievances and unfinished business, also find their logical explanation in Buddhist teachings. Their inability to peacefully transition to the next world is linked to the strong negative emotions they cannot let go of, such as anger, revenge, resentment, envy, longing for the lost, and fear of the unknown, which keep them in the world of the living. That is why compassionate Buddhist monks performed special rites to appease such lost spirits, pacifying their anger, helping them let go of the past, find peace, and safely transition to the next stage of their spiritual journey, severing their connection with the earthly realm. As we now know, not all yokai were friendly towards humans or remained neutral, not interfering in their affairs. Some of them posed a real danger to humans, seeking to harm them, and people were constantly looking for effective ways to protect themselves from their evil intentions. This is where the ancient traditions of Shinto and Buddhism came into play, offering people time-tested tools and methods to combat supernatural forces and protect themselves from unexplained phenomena. For example, ordinary table salt was used as a powerful means of purification, banishing evil and warding off dark forces. It was not only sprinkled in a thin layer at the doors and windows of houses to ward off evil yokai and keep them out, but was also used in various purification rituals, ridding of negative energy. Have you ever seen small pyramids or heaps of salt placed at Japanese rituals before the start of a meal? This is part of this ancient tradition rooted in the depths of centuries. Or take the sacred mirrors made of polished bronze, which occupy a special place in Shinto. In Shinto, a mirror is not just an object reflecting the external world, but a symbol of purity, truth, clarity, and self-knowledge, helping one see their true essence. It was believed that an evil spirit, approaching a mirror and seeing its hideous reflection, would be frightened by its own ugliness and would quickly run away without harming anyone. In some Shinto shrines, mirrors are still used as sacred artifacts, possessing magical power and protecting against evil. There were also various amulets and talismans, such as omamori, which could be purchased at a Shinto shrine or Buddhist monastery, hoping for protection. Each amulet was made for a specific purpose: protection from evil spirits, attracting good luck, maintaining health, ensuring safe travel, or even helping in studies to achieve success. But behind these modest amulets lay a deeper philosophical idea, rooted in religious beliefs. The amulet did not simply protect its owner from misfortunes and adversities, but constantly reminded them that they were under the protection of higher powers, of their connection with the spiritual world, and of the need to live in accordance with moral principles. And also fuda, paper talismans, on which prayers, spells, or sacred symbols were written, were attached to the doors or windows of houses to ward off evil yokai and protect the dwelling from the invasion of dark forces. The close connection of yokai with Shinto and Buddhism shows an amazing and unique thing. The Japanese have never perceived the supernatural as something alien, hostile, or far from everyday life. For them, the world of spirits and the world of humans are one unified reality, where everything is closely connected by invisible threads and influences each other. Yokai could frighten, deceive, test, or even attack people, but their actions always had their own logic, their own system of rules, and their own meaning. If you treat nature and other people with respect, show kindness and compassion, observe traditions, and honor your ancestors, then the world of spirits will be favorable, helping and protecting you in difficult times. This profound philosophical idea is still alive today in the minds of the Japanese. People still visit Shinto shrines and Buddhist monasteries, buy protective amulets, perform purification rituals, and participate in traditional festivals to strengthen their connection with the spiritual world and enlist the support of higher powers. Because even in the modern world, full of advanced technologies, scientific discoveries, and rational thinking, the Japanese do not forget their ancient roots and carefully preserve their connection with something greater than themselves, with something mysterious and incomprehensible. And perhaps it is this reverent attitude to their traditions and connection with the spiritual world that makes their culture so unique, distinctive, and attractive to people from all over the world. Japanese mythology and rich folklore, closely intertwined with the deep religious traditions of Shinto and Buddhism, reveal an amazing, captivating, and mysterious world of yokai, supernatural beings who embody the deepest human fears, strong emotions, ancient beliefs, and the inextricable connection with the surrounding nature being an integral part of Japanese culture. From the cunning and treacherous kitsune and the intimidating and cruel oni to the enigmatic and sorrowful yurei and the mischievous kappa, each yokai carries its own unique story and conveys an important lesson, helping us better understand ourselves and the world around us. They remind us that the world is full of riddles, mysteries, and unseen forces, and that achieving harmony with the world around us requires respect for nature, for traditions, and for other people, regardless of their origin. In Japan, meticulously crafted rituals, protective amulets, and sacred shrines served as more than just defenses against malevolent forces. They were a unique way to cultivate harmonious relationships with these enigmatic entities, establishing a connection with them. Deeply rooted in Shintoism and Buddhism, these age-old traditions persist today, passed down through generations, linking contemporary Japanese people with their rich spiritual and cultural heritage and inspiring creativity and self-expression. Thank you for listening to the entire lecture. I hope you found it interesting and informative. I sincerely hope that this enlightening journey into the wondrous realm of Japanese mythology, brimming with mysteries, legends, spiritual teachings, and captivating stories, was fascinating, beneficial, and inspiring for you, and that it left a lasting impression on your soul. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to share your thoughts, impressions, and any questions that arose in the comments, so that others may also learn about this amazing world. I am always happy to continue the conversation on these mystical and profound topics, discussing any questions you may have. Until next time, friends.